I'm about to say a true thing. You was popping back when Usher wore you changed. Goddamn, you've changed. What's up, my dudes? I miss the old MX Simulator, guys. Got to come in here and make this video. There, and I get why it feels like this now, because I totally got out of riding with the whole erode thing, got completely away from it, just went back in there and acted like it was 2014-15 on MX Simulator again, right? Just went back to the old days, started riding on the older tracks that weren't made for erode, started riding on them without erode, just acted like there was no erode in the game at all, just went back to like I was literally playing back in those days. And let me tell you something, dog. It's the most fun I've had in the game in the past 2 years. I'm just telling you that right now, right off the bat. It is the most fun being able to go back in there on a track again that actually has like pre-made ruts, hardcore pre-made roughness. It doesn't just feel like you're flat tracking. Like, I don't know, there was just a certain magic to MX Simulator back in those days. Just a certain little, something, certain little, it had something to it that pulled everybody in, right? It kind of goes back to that, don't try to fix something that's not broken. You know what I'm saying? And I really feel like that's what they've done with the road in this game. It's like they're trying to fix something that was never broken to begin with. And really, it's just going backwards on them. It's really just backfiring on them. Like, that's all there is to it. There's just so many more issues that comes along with it. But, I mean, it's just, it's crazy. And I challenge a lot of you guys to do this, but you should go back and like just act like there is no erode in the game. Just go back like you completely skipped the past 2 years, 2019 and 18, when they started doing the erode. Just go ride on those older tracks, go do all that, and just see, you'll see what I'm talking about, dog. You'll see the fun and the magic of MX Simulator when you go back and play the game like it was meant to be played, like it was made for. This game wasn't made for erode. I hate to break it to some of you guys, but it wasn't made for that at all. Like Reflex, had a terrain deformation from the beginning. It was made for it. MX Simulator did not have a terrain deformation system pretty much at all. I mean, it did have, but nobody really used it. It was a literal fucking joke. You couldn't even play with it online. There were so many weird, I just cannot believe, they have tried to push something that hard that wasn't even really made for the game. And that's why you're seeing so many of these issues and so many, JLV having to go in there and do all these updates with the road and it causing all this lag and all of these optimization issues with it. That's why you have all of that, because the game's not even actually made for that type of road. You understand what I'm saying? It was really just made to go in there to just kind of mess around with offline. That's what it was actually made for. And it was made to go in there where you could kind of like ride on a track and make these certain ruts and then save that on a custom track, and then that be the pre-made ruts on your custom track. That was another sort of use for it at the beginning. But then it's turned into this whole other thing when it really isn't this whole other thing. You see what I'm saying? So that's the big issue. But man, I don't know. There was just a certain something to that old MX Simulator that has been completely lost, I couldn't imagine some new person getting into MX Simulator now with the way everything is now and just thinking that that's like the norm. They have no idea what the magic was of back in the days of this game. Back from 13 through 17, right? The way the pro racing was back then, the whole 9 yards, the way custom tracks were, where they weren't built for erode and all of that. It was another level, boys. I'm just saying, it was a whole nother level, and it's not that kind of game anymore, and it's just so unfortunate because it's such an easy fix. Just take it out. Just take it out. It's so easy. So easy. You're right back to, bam, square one, amazing MX Simulator that brought everybody in to begin with. All you got to do is take your road out. That's it. It's simple fix, guys. It's not hard. It's easy, baby. Too easy, actually. Matter of fact, too fucking easy. I mean, God. I don't know what else to say about it, man. Wanted to come in here and explain what really got me into MX Simulator at the beginning, what really pulled me in, what gave me that pretty much lifelong addiction feeling to this game, right? And that feeling like I could just play this game every single day for the rest of my life and not get tired of it, right? That whole kind of thing, that what really pulled me into MX Simulator. And I think this is really important because I feel like this has been totally lost over the past couple years in this game. It truthfully has, and it's just sad to see it, man. And I don't want to blame it all on erode, even though that has definitely caused a lot of it. I don't want to blame it all on that. There's certainly a couple other things here and there that have caused it. Track design in general, the lack of professionalism in the pro racing, quite a few different little things has caused this feeling. But one big thing is, one of the things that got me, just so teeth sunk in kind of addiction to this game at the beginning is you kind of get into MX Simulator at the beginning, right? And you're playing the game, you're learning the bike, you're learning the physics. It's like so cool. It's like, oh my God, it's like a real life dirt bike, right? But in a virtual world, you just can't believe the feeling of the bike. And you go through like stability and learning how to be able to turn with that super quick steering capability that's not really in an arcade motocross game, right? You learn how to do all that. You learn the full-blown leaning aspect to MX Simulator that's completely different than any other game. You learn all these little things, and it's such a fun progression going from that full-blown beginner, barely even can get around any track, right? That, you gotta love that fucking crazy moments, die. You gotta love, like, that whole feeling of going from, feeling like a full-blown beginner in real life on a dirt bike to progressing into feeling like you're Eli Tomac on a real-life dirt bike in MX Simulator, right? That is such a progression, such a fun thing to do, such a big aspect to the game. But what really got me into it hardcore is the random online racing, okay? That's kind of what you start doing because you start getting better at it, and it's like you that endless skill gap, right? You really can start separating yourself from your competition, and you kind of like, you start getting a status and a reward system out of that, right? Being able to hop on a random server and get third or fourth in a race, or being able to hop on there and win a random online server race with a full gate of people. There is a super reward feeling from just doing that, right? Not even in a pro race, but just the random online racing that was in this game whenever I first got into it. So this is kind of what I'm explaining, how erode has really damaged this whole aspect to the game. One of the biggest reasons, one of the biggest first big pillar things that pulled me into MX Simulator, it's not even the same anymore because of erode specifically, right? This is one aspect of it that has really, it's done a number on this game, man. And the sad part about it is all of those dudes in RF that have been around for any number of years, any amount of time, they know deep down what the hell they're doing. They know that what they're doing with all that is not the good old school MX Simulator fun. Like, deep down they realize that. They just don't want to admit it. Because that's basically like saying, hey, this thing we've been doing for the past 2 years, we've just been completely wrong on that. Like, they don't want to admit that, right? And it's such a hard thing for them to muster up and just accept and come out and be like, yeah, okay, that didn't work. We need to go back to the way the game was before. Like, they don't understand that. Oh, by the way, I love when people get that sort of idea, like, before erode on MX Simulator, somehow, like, there was no roughness and no ruts, and people always tell me, like, Spitzer, you can't handle the ruts and the roughness and the erode, you're just a pussy, like, you can't handle any of that, dog, as if there wasn't like a metric shitload of that on certain tracks beforehand. That's what cracks me up, We had amazing super hardcore rough tracks. We had amazing super rough tracks. It's so funny how they try to make that sort of comparison with the road. It's like when you try to disagree with the road, that somehow means that you can't handle roughness or can't handle ruts. Like, what the hell, dog? We already had all of that before there was any erode in MX Simulator at all. The only difference was it just didn't change over time. But still, we had hardcore as hell rough tracks. I don't know how much better of an example I can give you than this track right here. We had hardcore as hell crazy mud tracks and rut tracks and kicker over jump tracks and all this shit that you guys are, jumping over hoops for now with this erode system. We already have that in the game, man. You can actually make it better without the erode. That's the crazy part about it. It just doesn't change over time. That is the only difference, man. The only difference. It's weird. Some people get that sort of idea in their head, like MX Simulator without a road just means like super flat, no rut tracks. It's so weird how they think that way. But either way, it's like there was just a magic to MX Simulator back in the days of 2000, whenever I first got into it at the end of 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, right? There was just a magic, unexplainable, like super amazing, awesome, any sort of word you could possibly use for it like that. There was just a certain something that MX Simulator had to it back in those days. There was a certain, I don't know, a certain mojo, you know what I'm saying, dog? Certain something that has been lost over the past 2 years. And I'm sure the game was badass back in the days of 2011, 12, and 13. I wasn't actually playing the game back in that time, but trust me, I've earned my stripes, dog, on those 2011, 12, and 13 Supercross tracks. I have literally rode like 100 plus races on every single Supercross track a piece back in 2011, 12, and 13 tracks in this game. That's actually how I learned this game. That's what I got my whole start on, was riding on those random online servers on those old school Supercross tracks, right? So I know it was probably a hell of a time back then, but I'm just speaking from the years of 14, 15, 16, 17. It's just, it was a whole nother kind of fun, man. I don't know any other way to explain it, but what I'm saying, though, is there's a certain fun in MX Simulator, and I notice it now going back, like completely acting like there is no erode in this game at all. Just kind of completely forgetting about that, like going back 2 years in time, right? Going back and riding on random tracks with no erode that weren't made for erode, right? Sort of going back in time. I challenge some of you guys to do this, right? Because I think some of you guys have gotten a little delusional over the past couple years, right? What I want you to do is go back and ride on that 2017 RF Southwick track, right, with no erode. Go ride on it, and then go on there and ride on the 2019 RF Southwick track. And just tell me which one is more fun. I mean, seriously, like, just tell me, dog. I mean, you can even, like, especially if you get on that newer Southwick track with no erode, it's not even a question on which one's more fun, okay? And then that goes into my whole, with a road, it's almost like it kills every other aspect of MX Simulator other than when you're riding with 40 other people full gate on a motocross track in the actual pro race itself. It kills every other aspect. Kills the online racing of it, because it's impossible to get into a server with the right amount of people and the right amount of road. That's like literally like, you know, winning the fucking lottery to get all that to work perfect on a random online server. Kills all the random online server racing. You basically, you can't just go on there and download a new RF national track and just ride on it for fun by yourself, because you're going to be riding on a flat track. You're going to be riding on completely smoothed out ruts. It's completely, the whole track's made for erode, so you can't just go on there and have fun, bam, right off the bat like you could, you know, all those tracks back in the day, right? You kill all of that going back to an older track multiple years later, because you have to have 40 people with the perfect amount of erode on these newer RF tracks. You have to have that, or the track is complete shit. How do you guys not understand the problem with that? That doesn't even make any sense how you guys aren't getting it. Like, that's what I'm saying. A lot of these guys in RF, it's like they understand deep down. It's just they don't want to fix it. They don't want to change it. Double crazy moments, dog. It just kills so much of that. And what it has done is it has tainted the entire random online racing aspect to MX Simulator. Okay, so let me kind of explain this to you here a minute, right? So basically, back in the day, whenever I first got into this game, I was telling you guys, you know, I would get on there and get on some of these old 2011, 2012, 2013 Supercross tracks, and you would literally be able to have a full gate of people on the random online Supercross racing server, the Elsinore 03, right? And have a full gate of people every single night. You would have a full gate of people, not only on like the old school tracks on a server, on an official server, but you'd also have a full gate of people on the newer Supercross tracks on an official server, like the 2014 tracks or whatever the most modern year of Supercross tracks was, and everybody was on there racing, dude. And then you'd have a full gate of people on the outdoor server because everybody was on it, because there wasn't all of this horseshit of having to try to get this perfect erode setting and this perfect thing going on the online server. It all just worked because whatever the track was is what it was. And there's a certain magic to trying to master that certain track, right? And this is something I've learned by going back and riding on these older tracks and doing all this like I did back in the day. There's just a certain fun and a certain magic to doing that in MX Simulator. That's what MX Simulator was actually made for, right? The game was made for that. Make a track a certain way and you ride on that certain track. It wasn't even made for a terrain deformation system. I mean, this whole erode MX Simulator thing, it was a fucking joke before 2018. A literal joke in this game. You couldn't play with it online, too much lag. And by the way, it still has too much lag, but you couldn't play with it online. I mean, literally, there was like 2 or 3 people even knew there was a road in this game, period, before 2018, right? And you would go on there and just fart around on a random track, be like, oh, cool, that kind of made some ruts on it. But that was all the terrain deformation system was in MX Simulator. It's not like that shit has been in the core, fundamental bones of this game from the jump like it is in Reflex or any of that kind of stuff. It has literally been shoved, drilled in like, and the piece doesn't fit. That's what I'm getting at. The piece doesn't fit what you're trying to do with it. And that's really, you're starting to realize how that affects everything in this game, okay? So basically, like, easiest way to explain that is like me going in there and saying it's killed the whole random online racing server aspect. One of the biggest things that has gotten me into this game, that rewarding feeling of like working your way up through the random racing ladder of the game. There's none of that anymore because nobody wants to deal with trying to get on some random online server with a certain random erode that has been voted in, could be way too fucking high, making completely janky ass ruts, could be way too low, and then you're on a track that's made for erode, so then therefore you're flat tracking, you don't have any rust in it, you don't have any roughness, you got that whole vibe going, so people has just quit playing on the random online servers. You can't hardly find nobody on that shit anymore. So erode has single-handedly damn near killed, I'm not even going to say damn near, it has killed the whole random online racing server aspect of the game. One of the funnest aspects to MX Simulator, it's totally killed it. Totally killed it, man. That's what I'm saying about how the erode has killed so many other aspects that your average Joe, somebody doesn't really understand the actual ecosystem of MX Simulator. They wouldn't realize how it's damaged that in so many different ways. But it really has, guys. Like, it's pitiful. I mean, it's getting sad at this point how it's killing this game in so many different ways. Because like I say, it used to just be so simple. You just got on there on whatever track, and that was the track, right? And you just raced on it, and you had a good-ass time. Whether or not it was like a super ruddy pre-made supercross track, or it was a more smooth-style supercross track, or it was a super rough pre-made motocross track, you still had all your ruts and your roughness and your whatever on your motocross tracks. You still had every bit of that. It's not like, oh, well, Spencer, there's no road, you're not going to have the ruts, you're not going to have the roughness. You still had every bit of that. It just didn't change over time, and by God, most of the time on an online racing server, you only run 4 or 5 laps anyways on it, so you don't even really need a road. It's kind of pointless anyways, because the track's not going to change that much in 4 or 5 laps in real life anyways. So it's like, you get what I'm saying, but you're riding on a goddamn track that is made for 40 other people on it with a super low erode setting to develop over a long period of time. So if you're not running that exact thing, 40 other riders with that exact kind of erode setting, it's not going to work worth a shit. Like, how do you guys not get that? So it kills all of the replayability of the track, kills all of going back and playing older content. And this is something that JOV has been able to preserve so well in this game. Being able to continue to update this game, put new bikes, new dynos, faster dynos, the whole 9 yards. He can do whatever he wants to the game, but you can still go back and play a track from 2010 and still have a shitload of fun on it. Like, all the old track content still works. All of the old tens of thousands of custom user-created tracks still work in the game. It all still works. JLV has put so much time and effort into making everything still work all of these years later, a decade later, and Erode is killing every bit of that, because you can't go back and ride on a 2019 national track unless you have 40 other people with that exact amount of Erode that they run on it. It's like, people are so stupid. They see one little clip of the actual pro race with 40 other people in that certain amount of road, and they think, oh, that track's not that bad, right? Oh, that road's not that bad. Well, yeah, if you have those exact every little 100% to the dot perimeters on that track, it may not be so bad, you idiot, but you got to understand how that's not the way it is 99 out of 100 other times that you're playing the game. It's not that way, right? And it's just, I mean, I go back to the way the pre-made ruts and the pre-made roughness that feeling you could get, the feeling the bike would feel like going over these kind of pre-made ruts and roughness. There was a certain realism to the way that gave it, right? Versus the janky, weird-ass braking bumps that the Erode makes, which it didn't even really make braking bumps. It's so fucking bizarre. Like, it can't even really make braking bumps. It just kind of sort of makes ruts in the corners. Janky-ass, triangled-out, weird ruts. And they have to go in there and make pre-made roughness for it to even make any roughness at all. And it still doesn't make the ruts and the roughness like the pre-made in the game. That's what a lot of you guys don't understand. Some of you newer people to MX Simulator, you don't understand the magic of what that used to feel like, right? You don't understand what that felt like in the game. That felt more real than what the newer terrain deformation erode system can even make in the game. So all this bullshit about the ruts aren't changing over time, there's no terrain deformation, that's not real, right? That's not realistic. Well, whatever the fuck it's making is not even as realistic as what you could make pre-made back in the day before Erode. So what's your point? It doesn't really, you know, there's not a whole lot you can push with that, because that makes no sense. If it was more realistic before, just because now all of a sudden it's changing over time, that's not a good argument, dog, because even in real life, it doesn't change that much unless you're sitting there just running in the exact same line over and over and over and over for an entire day. Like, it's not going to change that much, man. And even in the real life pro racing, they don't go in there and flatten the damn track out before they run Moto 2s and shit. Like, there's a lot of pre-made ruts and shit on the track. It just doesn't change like what Erode makes this game change. It just doesn't do that. I mean, I don't know any other way to explain it. It just doesn't do that. It just kills me, guys, whenever I see such an amazing game, such an amazing potential, and it already achieving all of that, and then it's like they're just literally shoveling shit on top of an already amazing 10 out of 10 game. Like, that's what's killing my soul right now, and I can't fucking take it, dude. It's just, oh, it just kills me so much to see that happening to MX Simulator. I mean, good God, man, go back and ride on off-season SX2. No erode at all, and tell me that is not one of the funnest experiences you can have in MX Simulator, period. Like, come on, dog. Go back and ride on some of those 2014 freaking Arlington RF Supercross track, no erode. Don't tell me that is not 3 times more fun than riding on, you know, more than half of that bullshit that you've been riding on the past 2 years in RF. Come on, dog. Like, and by golly, if you want to go in there and have some more ruts on a Supercross track, some more, you know, more like realistic small ruts, whatever on a Supercross track, go make a rough version. That's the whole magic to it. You can make 7,000 different versions of the same track if you want to, right? I mean, seriously, guys, like, what that does is you can have like a smooth version of a Supercross track and go ride on that just for fun, make that be the qualifying, make that be the whatever, and then for the main event, you could just have a more rutted track. And then what that does is that allows you to have whatever kind of different roughness, rut, kicker, berm, what the fuck ever you can think of for whatever round you want to have, right? So let's say, just for instance, you want to do like more of a sandy blowed out ruts on a Southwick track, or more of a, like kind of that sandy chop roughness, kind of how sand does on kind of the way the ruts and stuff, like more blowed out chop rut, kind of more berms and ruts, you know what I'm saying, on a sand track, that kind of vibe going on. You can do that. You can make all that pre-made and then go in there and have like a super dry, hard pack national track that's got more smooth areas, and it's got more hardcore blue groove style ruts and stuff like that. You can do a lot more difference with the ruts and the roughness depending on what kind of track you're on pre-made, versus just turning the erode on and then the erode is just going to make whatever the hell it's going to make, right? It's not really like for instance, if you go on there on a sand track, turn erode on, and then you come over here on a super hard pack, dry, blue groove slick track, like a desert vibe track, and turn erode on, it's going to be the exact same kind of ruts and roughness on both of those tracks. What the fuck kind of sense does that even make? You can't be having that, dog. Or like the difference between like a rainy Seattle Supercross race versus a hard packed, dry Arlington Supercross track. Erode is going to make the same exact thing on both of those. What the hell kind of sense does that make? It makes no sense. Yeah, you can turn it down, but it's still going to be making the damn near the same thing. Versus being able to go in there and just make all that pre-made, you know what I'm saying? And if you need to have two versions of a track to have a little bit of change between Moto 1 and 2, or the heat races in the main events, or qualifying in the heat races, or, if you want a little bit of change, by all means, just go in there and have 2 or 3 different versions of it. That's really not that hard to do that. It's not that hard to go in there and have 2 or 3 different versions of a track. And that's what I'm saying. It doesn't even change that much anyways from one heat race to the next heat race, or whatever, like actually changing during that particular event. It's not that big of a deal, people. It's not. I'm telling you, you're going to have just as much realism or more by having multiple different versions of it, and actually being able to have that difference of different styles of rut designs depending on what kind of track you're on, different roughness design, different kicker design. You can actually go in there and directly make what you're wanting to make, versus trying to rely on the random ass janky erode system to make what you're wanting to make. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're trying to rely on the erode system to make it when you could just go in there and make it however you wanted to make it before. Like they're just so overly trying to push something new in MX Simulator for no good reason. Don't fix something that ain't broken, dog. That's such a true aspect when you talk about this whole erode system to MX Simulator. This game was not broken to any degree at all. The online server racing was not broken. You had all kinds of people racing on that shit. Now there's nobody. Now it's like the only time people are really riding together on MX Simulator other than the pro racing is when you have like a certain team and they're in Discord and they're off on their own little random server, right? They're off on their own server. Or you've got like, 3 or 4 dudes riding in some server that aren't on a team and they're just talking on Discord. Or you got some dudes trying to have a specific erode on one specific track, and so they try to have this real specific racing environment, but nobody's riding on the random online servers anymore. You can't. It's a piece of shit now because of erode. It's just terrible. I just hope, and RF has already admitted to the whole reason that they're doing all this is because they're bored of doing the pro racing. I mean, literally, fucking Jeremy Cohenhauer said in chat, he said, if we weren't doing erode, we wouldn't even be doing the pro racing because we get tired of it. We wouldn't be interested in doing it. So they're going to just sit there and continue to push erode, whether or not it's good for the community, whether or not people really want it or not. Obviously, we voted that we didn't want it. No erode at all, but they're still going to do it, right? It is such a dictatorship style mentality at this point, right? They're not even understanding what the hell is going on around them. I mean, when they go in there and say something like they just want to go in there and test erode, and that's what's keeping them interested in doing the pro racing, and they wouldn't do it if they weren't doing erode. I mean, what more else is there to even say, guys? I cannot believe he said that. I mean, he literally just admitted to everything I've been saying this entire time. Like, it's not that they're really trying to give you the best racing experience possible. No. It's not that they're trying to really help improve the game and do all these things. No, they just want to test a road. They just want to try to test some sort of terrain deformation in MX Simulator. That's all they're doing. You see how their whole focus point is not even in the right area. They're not even focused on the right things, and that's why we're to where we are now. They don't even realize what the hell the tornado they've caused in the random online racing servers, the tornado of like how much it's killed being able to go in there and download a new random RF track and just ride on it by yourself for fun. It's like they're just not understanding everything else around a road. They have such tunnel vision on it, and they need to take a look back. You need to take a look back at how fun this game was in 2012, 13, 14, 15, right? Take a look back at the replayability of the tracks and the overall retention of the players and the overall excitement that the players had for it. You know why you're getting so much negative feedback? You know why you guys are always sitting there going, oh, everybody in RF now is like, oh my God, all these people, they won't shut up about it. They're just giving us so much negative feedback. All they do is give us more and more negative feedback. Well, don't you think there's probably a reason for that? You know, you would think so, right? Like, you're just never going to get it with the erode in this game. You're never going to get it, man. But, you know, whatever. Just a little Spencer Turley words of wisdom out here. God damn, man. It's just sad because, like, I'm having way more fun. I'm having the most fun I've had in this game in 2 years now that I've quit pro racing, and I'm just going back to riding on these old school tracks with no erode and, like, going back and seeing how fun all that was. Like, dude, this is why the fuck I got into this game in the first place. This is what made this game so fun and addictive from the beginning. Like, you start to realize how much that has been lost over the past 2 years. And if there were still a bunch of people on the, like, 2013, 12, 11 Supercross tracks and some of the newer Supercross tracks like 17 and 16, if there were still a lot of people on those on an online server with no erode, I'd be all over that shit every single night, dude. But it's just not that way anymore. So either way, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes. Make MXM great again 2020, bitches.